There's more. We have to be back to the
We went for a meal and they kept us waiting. We waited.
Right then, first of all, thank you for being with me in this short interview and like very very quick talk. You've been living in different countries and you've been like Islam critic for a long time. We talking about Islamism. We're living in year 2024. How you see the threat of Islamism nowadays in Europe and North America specifically? I'm not talking about Middle East and the rest of the world. In the Western society, in Europe and North America, how you serious you see the threat of Islamism?
I think it's even more serious than it was when I first wrote my book.
Why is that?
Because the Islamists have become more and more bold in their demands, and the Western politicians have been pusillanimous. They've been cowardly. It's been appeasement all the way, and they're giving in to demands for hijabs in schools and these sort of things. They're destroying their own values, and they just don't have the courage to stand up for their own values. The complete lack of self-confidence or civilizational confidence, self-confidence. So I see it a very, very disastrous situation where you get something like 70% of the people want Sharia in Western countries. There was a survey in this Journal Dimanche,
Yeah.
and it showed that 49% of French Muslims want Catholics to convert to Islam, 36% want churches to be transformed into mosques. The survey also discloses that 25% of French Muslims said that the word France is a word they reject. So I mean, it's even the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, he says there's no such thing as French culture. I mean, how are you going to defend your own culture if you think there is no such thing? And this is the same thing in Britain. They're going to pass a law banning so-called Islamophobia, a vague term which is going to be very badly, either it's going to be very badly defined or it's going to be so wide that it will kill all freedom of expression.
Yep, you have brilliant books. Like you're well known for your books. You're an author criticizing Islam. One of the most well-known books you've written is like Why I Left, Why I'm Not Muslim. Yeah, why you think is vital to criticize Islam?
Because otherwise, I mean, it's no good lamenting the lack of a renaissance or in the Islamic world. How do you think this renaissance or reformation? How will a reformation come about in the Islamic world if not without criticism? So unless you want a reformation, you've really got to criticize Islam. It's the only way that it'll move forward.
Yeah. Do you see if a Middle East countries like Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan one day in future turn into secular states, secular countries, that would affect the Islamism, the wave of Islamism in the West or not?
If they become secular, it seems unlikely to me in the next at least 50 years, I would say, but I suspect it's going to be longer. I can't see it. The whole raison d'etre of Pakistan is the religion. It was created for the Muslims. It was a disaster right from the beginning. So I think it was a big mistake to give in to the demands of the Muslims in India.
I see a point. One last question. How you think, ex-Muslims and secular in the West overcome Islamism and to just confront such a threat in Western societies and protect the secular and laicity laws in these countries in Europe?
How can they do that? Well, I think they've got to educate themselves, and then they should not be afraid of defending their own values. by simply holding your ground and defending secular values, separation of church and state or mosque and state, you're already putting doubt into the minds of Muslims. You know, if you show confidence, but if you give up each time, they're not going to respect you. They will say, they don't even want to defend their own countries, their own values. It's ridiculous.
I understand. Since I'm not really sure when it's going to be the next interview we're going to have, I'm going to ask one more question, and it's going to be the last one. In your panel, you said during your speech, you said you don't see any difference between Islam and Islamism.
Yeah.
You see both as the same. Can you explain why?
Well, I think Islamism is based entirely what is in Islam, in the sacred texts. That's to say, mainly the Quran and the Hadith. Every single tenet of so-called Islamic fundamentalism is derived from Islam. So, what is the difference between Islam and Islam?
Islamism, like you see as a political movement, for example, or Islam can be like a private manner. So you don't see any difference between
No,
both?
it would have to be a radical change, and where you relegate the religion to private matters between you and your conscience, you and your God, and you separate it from the public aspect of religion. You separate the two. It's the only way that's how progress came in the West, incidentally. I think it was the slow secularization came with things like criticism of religion, and the slow rational discussion of the principles, which brought about secularization.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate your time.